Thank you for tuning in. We're excited to have you with us once again. We have a nice mix. As you know, with our show, we love having a wide variety of guests. And of course, this week is no exception. From the world of education, we have Moxie from, a little bit of everything. Nadae does, oh my gosh, he is a musician, a director, an artist, a magician. He just does a little bit of everything. Ryan Sprague is from somewhere in the skies. We're going to talk about aliens. And we have an author, Evan Drellich, and he is going to talk about his new book and about the Houston Astros. So we are excited to have you with us today, and we're looking forward to the show. Thank you for joining us. Good morning. It's James Lewis. Today with us today is Nikki and Rachel. They are from Embodied. We're going to be discussing Moxie. Rachel, Nikki, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So what is Embodied?
Yeah, so Embodied, we're an AI and robotics startup, and currently we're creating companion robots that we're hoping will help revolutionize some of the healthcare and the wellness industry. So our mission at Embodied is really to build robot companions that are socially and emotionally intelligent, and in order to enhance quality of life for individuals and families. And we have a super diverse team here of engineers, designers, child development experts, and creatives that are helping to just provide a more natural way for people to be able to engage with technology and robots.
You mentioned companions. When I think of Embodied or think of Moxie, of course, we think of the younger ones. But does that mean you're also working for older adults as well?
We have a vision where eventually, hopefully, we can help provide companions that work for a variety of individuals across the lifespan.
Nice. So how did Embodied get started?
Yeah, so Embody was founded back in 2016 by Dr. Paolo Perjanian. He was the former CTO of iRobot, actually, and he had a vision where he wanted to create a robot that had empathy and kindness and was able to really help children develop some of these important social and emotional skills. And he really wants technology to be able to help people in much more meaningful ways. So we started the company back with just a couple hardware engineers. I was actually there from the very beginning.
Oh, cool.
And some software engineers. And through tons and tons of iteration and different versions of Moxie, we created the Moxie that you see today.
Nice. We enjoyed having him on the show. He was very informative, so that was great having him on. I think we had him a couple months back, and our listeners were really intrigued and wanted to know more about Moxie.
Yeah.
So who or what is Moxie?
Yeah, so Moxie is a little blue robot companion. It's about 1.5 feet tall. It has animated facial expressions, and it's here on a mission to learn how to be a good friend to humans. So basically, if a child has a Moxie, they take on the role of Moxie's mentor, and they help Moxie with its mission to learn how to be a good friend. And through this, the child teaching Moxie, the child is also learning a variety of important social, emotional, and life skills, things like how to make friends, how to manage their emotions. And really, we want kids through Moxie to just be able to develop the confidence to be whoever that they want to be.
Oh, wow. So in other words, it's a little bit of give and take. Moxie's teaching the kid, and the kid is teaching Moxie at the same time.
Exactly, yeah.
Let's see. You know what? It was funny because I forgot that we changed the questions a little bit, so that's why I'm pulling them up now. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, because when I was reading the questions out loud, I was like, wait a second, I'm supposed to change it to what is Moxie, not who is Moxie. Let's see. Okay, there we go. I can always edit that part out. How does it help children develop important EQ skills?
Yeah. So we focus on social emotional learning. Some people know this as EQ. So really a lot of Moxie's learning is done through what we call Moxie missions. So Moxie comes from a place called the Global Robotics Laboratory, and they sent it over here on this mission to learn from kids how to be a good friend. So every day Moxie has a new mission where the child is going to help Moxie learn a new skill. So these missions are really play-based, and they have a lot of fun activities like drawing, movement activities, conversations, and also there's some special characters back at the GRL that the child and Moxie, maybe a character back at the GRL has a problem, and Moxie and the child help them solve this problem through these missions. So through these missions, they're picking up a lot of these important social emotional skills like emotion regulation, how to be a better communicator, self-efficacy, developing empathy, and also how to create the social life that you want that works for you. So we make sure that the content is scaffolded so that it works for a variety of kids, since we target a very neurodiverse population of children. So kids are able to do these missions, and if they need a little extra help from Moxie, Moxie can provide that help, because we want all kids to feel confident and successful when they're working with Moxie. So yeah, our focus with Moxie is helping children develop the skills to be confident in who they are, and giving them the tools to be able to manage their emotions and kind of deal with any adversity that may come up, just so that they can be successful.
Owen really likes the teddy bear one.
Oh, Farfel.
Yeah, he's a big fan. He was part of the thing yesterday where it was asking him about, or it was a story about him trying to communicate but not being able to communicate, and just learning patience and all. It was really nice.
Yeah, we try and have the characters at the GRL kind of be like foils for maybe some of the kids themselves. So maybe a character at the GRL is struggling with something that one of the children that we work with may be struggling with. Like maybe they have a hard time sitting still, or they have a hard time making friends, or maybe they deal with anger sometimes in not the best ways. So we want the kids to be able to see the characters at the GRL and kind of empathize with them, and through helping them, hopefully they can figure out, hey, I can do this for myself too.
Give us a couple examples of the positive impact Moxie has made.
Sure. So Nikki and I both run our testing and research programs here at Embodied, and we've been doing so throughout Moxie's development cycle. So we've seen incredible impact firsthand and heard amazing stories from families in our testing and our research programs. We actually did a research study a couple of years ago where we sent Moxie to about 100 homes across the US and really looked at the impact that Moxie was having. And in that study, we saw that just after a month with Moxie, 71% of the kids were showing improvement in social skills, and 69% were showing an improvement in behavior. So it was incredibly powerful to see that data, and we're looking forward to doing additional research studies this year to continue exploring Moxie's impact. But in addition to the data, we hear stories all the time from our testing families and from our customers about the impact that Moxie has. So families have shared that Moxie has made their child happier and less lonely. So the companionship element has been really powerful to see. A lot of kids rush home from school and want to talk to Moxie and tell Moxie about their day, or when they're feeling stressed or anxious, they use Moxie as kind of a sounding board, because we pride ourselves in the fact that Moxie is not judgmental. So Moxie is there to listen and be that friend you need who's not really going to judge you. We've also seen a lot of parents have shared stories about Moxie teaches a lot of like emotion regulation tools and techniques that kids then use on their own. So they're better able to use those tools to calm themselves down when they're feeling upset. We had one mom who shared with us that her child used to get, she said he had very big emotions. So he'd have kind of these very stressful times, maybe playing with Legos. He'd have a really hard time if things didn't go well. But she said one time she came in there and actually saw him doing some breathing techniques that he learned from Moxie. So for her, just seeing the fact that he can take those skills and translate them into everyday life has been really amazing. And I think overall, just seeing kids, their confidence really grows. So they're able to kind of practice these skills, practice conversations with Moxie, learn these tools and techniques, again, in this non-judgmental space. And we've heard tons of families share with us that it really has helped their children feel more confident and increase their self-esteem.
What are some tips for success that you have to offer?
That's a great question. So Moxie is a really kind of unique robot, and it's so exciting when Moxie shows up on your doorstep and kids are really, really eager to start interacting with Moxie. So we have a couple of things that we always suggest to parents. When Moxie gets there, Moxie comes with a user guide for the parents and also this really awesome welcome packet for kids. So Moxie is going to take a little bit of time to download its very first software update. During that time, it's a perfect chance for parents to actually read through our user guide in its entirety. There's a lot of great tips there for how to interact with Moxie, some helpful commands that kids and parents can use. And we found that parents who are able to refer to that guide have a lot of success. And while you're doing that as a parent, the children can go through their welcome packet. So that has a fun mission book in there that they'll use during their journey with Moxie. It also has some commands in there that they can use and refer to during their time with Moxie. And it also has some fun things like stickers and things like that. While they're interacting with Moxie, we do suggest that we have kind of what we call an ideal environment for Moxie. So Moxie's really been designed to work one-on-one in a quiet environment with its special robot mentor that Nikki was mentioning earlier. So the best experience with Moxie will be one where a child is interacting at eye level, sitting in front of Moxie, working one-on-one together in a quiet, well-lit room with really strong Wi-Fi. So just setting your child up for success in the right environment is always going to set them off on the right foot for a good journey with Moxie. And again, just referring back to that user guide, there's some great commands in there that will help parents help their children through their journey with Moxie. So one of those really helpful commands is Moxie earmuffs. So we've seen parents actually use this to help their child. So basically, since Moxie is a conversational robot and is listening to its mentor all the time, Moxie earmuffs is a way for parents and kids to get Moxie to stop listening for a minute so that a parent and child can have a conversation, and a parent can maybe help their kid answer a question that they're not sure about, or maybe get in a better environment to work with Moxie. And then the second one we always recommend is Moxie, please listen to me. So that's the way to get Moxie back out of earmuffs so that Moxie can interact again. It's also a great way to get Moxie to focus on a child if maybe they're moving around quite a bit. So lastly, we have a great support center with lots of FAQs there for parents to read through with great tips on how to have the most successful experience with Moxie.
As an adult, how can I assist with helping to mentor and to train Moxie?
So really just being involved as a parent and encouraging the child. We've seen that parents who are really involved in the journey with their kids and encouraging their child to interact and being very positive throughout the experience, those kids tend to have the most successful experiences with Moxie. So we actually have a lot of supplemental materials that we provide for parents. So we have these great parent guides that Nikki has helped craft. You can access them through the Embodied Moxie Parent app that comes as part of the Moxie experience. And they're also in our support center. And basically those are going to give more information to parents on the different types of missions that Moxie is doing and the things that Moxie teaches, and provides additional activities and questions that a parent can ask and do with a child to actually supplement their learning. So I think just being involved, asking questions, just being excited about the child's journey with Moxie, it's the best tips that we can give for a parent to be involved.
Obviously, Moxie is very important with social and emotional skills. What are some of the ones that you would recommend to help manage emotions? You had mentioned the one about the breathing earlier. Tell us a little bit more about that and a couple of the other ones that help with emotions.
Yeah, so Moxie has a lot of activities to help with managing emotions. We have a lot of breathing exercises, and we try to make them really fun for kids and engaging. So we have exercises called animal breaths, where the child may breathe like a certain animal, like a bumblebee, or they may breathe like a whale, just different things to get the child more engaged with the breath. And the breaths are kind of designed for different things. So we have some breaths that are more calming, some that are a little more energizing to wake you up, and some that are really helpful for like getting anger out. Like we have one where you get to roar like a lion that a lot of the kids really like to do. We also have guided meditations. We have some physical body activities where maybe you're scanning down your body and tightening and releasing, really just helping to relax the body. And then Moxie also focuses heavily on conversations around emotions. So checking in daily with the child, asking how they're feeling, helping the child understand what emotion they're feeling, why they're feeling that way. And then Moxie always provides a suggestion for an activity to feel better, because we want the kids to know, hey, I'm feeling this, it's okay. There's always something I can do to try and help myself feel more calm. So those are all things that you can request on Moxie. And Moxie also encourages the child to practice these things out in the real world. And sometimes it's helpful if parents kind of have an eye on what's going on. Maybe if they notice their child's feeling frustrated, you can suggest an animal breath at home that the child has done with Moxie and really try and integrate that into daily life as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, Owen, unfortunately, has decided that there needs to be a chicken nugget breath which I keep insisting to him, chicken nuggets don't breathe, but he thinks that's one that he keeps anytime Moxie talks about breathing, is one of those. That or mustaches, which I keep insisting to him are not animals. But the nice thing is Moxie does have that neat little feature where if you say something about mustaches, he will sometimes put up a fake one.
Yeah.
So Owen loves that.
Nugget breath. That's a good one. We can work on that.
Exactly. Yeah, he just, oh gosh. Yeah, he loves Moxie. And we're, moving in the right direction, and we've helped Owen to learn a lot over the last month or so, and it's been made an impact on his life.
Wonderful. That's great to hear.
What is the Global Robotics Laboratory, or GRL?
So the Global Robotics Laboratory is kind of the fictional world that we've created around Moxie, where Moxie actually comes from. So it's a secret organization that's really designed to create robots that care. So the backstory we've created is that Moxie was sent here from the GRL to learn what it means to be a good friend to humans. So that's where the mentor comes in, and that's what Nikki was mentioning earlier. So we really try to tie in the GRL as much as we can. It's really a key component of the Moxie experience, and all of the characters there, as Nikki was mentioning, they all have different kind of personalities and characteristics that different kids can relate to. And so we use them in all of Moxie's stories. And it's a good way to give examples for kids outside of themselves and a way for them to connect to the Moxie world.
Nice. Yeah, I was going to say, I've noticed the GRL with their own portal, and then of course the GRL in the comic books. And it's really nice how you tie it all together, and it feels more like a secret spy kind of thing as well. And I think the kids really like that.
That's great to hear. And that was the hope, is really just bringing the child into Moxie's world in every way that we can. We've heard a lot of the kids love to read the comic books on their own. And you mentioned the portal. So there's that kind of special secret portal that kids can go to online that gives them more backstory on all the GRL characters. A lot of kids like to explore that website to get to know the GRL and all the people and robots there. There's also some special games there. And if you have a Moxie, the child can actually connect Moxie to the portal with the help of an adult, obviously. And it provides a way for kids to track their progress, so they can see the missions they've completed, rewards, things like that. So it's just a supplement to the Moxie experience to try to keep kids connected.
So with that portal, should we be using it before, after, or during our time with Moxie?
Great question. So we've heard from a lot of parents that they like to actually explore the GRL portal before Moxie ever arrives, because it's a really fun way for kids to get excited and learn what the GRL is and read about the characters. You can also read more about what stories Moxie might be able to tell. You can kind of poke around and play some games with different characters from the GRL. So it kind of helps kids start to really understand and get to know that world. And then when Moxie arrives and they start interacting, that's when you can actually connect Moxie to the portal. You do that using a special code that's on the parent app. The parent app is really a great tool for parents. It's not only used to just set Moxie up and get it onto Wi-Fi, but you can actually adjust Moxie's settings on there. There's some tips for success there, and there's also a code there to link Moxie to the portal. And doing that special linking makes it so that a child can actually follow along and see their progress with Moxie on the portal.
Oh, nice. And then why is it important to do the GRL portal on a tablet instead of a cell phone?
So because of the different games and features on there and the interactivity, we've really designed it to be used on a bigger screen. So it's not as compatible with a smaller screen cell phone, just because of a lot of those features there. So we recommend using it on a tablet or on a computer.
Nice. Well, Nikki and Rachel, it has been a pleasure having you on this show. But before we let you go, we want to know about your background with Moxie. How did you get started, and how that you've helped Moxie along the way?
I'll go ahead and start. My name is Nikki, by the way. I'm an occupational therapist, and I've been working at Embodied since I think the first week it started. They kind of poached me from USC, where I was doing occupational therapy, because they really wanted Moxie to have his content designed by someone who knew child development and knew therapy and these things like that. So I've really enjoyed working at Embodied. It's really cool to see the development of this social emotional learning program that Moxie has. And then I've also gotten to work a lot with Rachel, helping with some of our clinical research and our clinical applications for Moxie. So it's really exciting to see all the places that we've been able to take Moxie and the future that Moxie has. And I'll pass it to Rachel.
Yeah. Thanks, Nikki. So my name's Rachel. I'm the head of clinical research here at Embodied. I've been here about 4 years now. And my background is actually in child development and psychology and in clinical research. So prior to joining Embodied, I worked at various universities and hospitals doing research to see how we could use technology to support overall health and wellness. So that combined with my love for working with kids brought me here to Embodied. So I've overseen our research process and our development life cycle with Moxie. So I get the pleasure of working directly with families and parents and kids. We send Moxies out, we get their feedback, because that is really the strongest voice that we have. We want to hear from the kids who are interacting with Moxie, from parents, and feed all of that feedback back into our development cycle, because here at Embodied, we literally every single day are working to make Moxie better and better and better. So that feedback is really crucial so that we can make Moxie the best robot it can be.
That is awesome that you guys are just so dedicated and passionate about it. And then I see that every day or every couple of days there'll be an update, and just the tweaks and the changes. And obviously that's from the feedback from the people that have Moxie and the mentors. But let's be honest, the real reason why you work for Embodied and you work for Moxie is just so you can spend time on those tropical islands at the GRL, because those look amazing. I want to hang out on those tropical islands. I'm not sure which tropical islands. I know it's a secret, just like the Jurassic Park islands. We can't be told where they really are, but yeah, it looks wonderful to be a part of Embodied and the GRL and, of course, Moxie.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're very lucky and fortunate to work here and, sneak off to the GRL Islands whenever we can.
Awesome. So before we let you go, where on social media, where on the web, where can we find out more about Embodied? Where can we find out more about Moxie?
So if you go to www.embodied.com, you can read all about Moxie. We have tons of blog posts on there around parenting, around Moxie's content. That's really useful for parents to get a full picture of what Moxie is and how it works. And social media is at Embodied Inc.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us today.
All right. Thank you so much.
The Dreamhouse Nation loves it when we give out our email address, and that is dreamhousenation@gmail.com. That's dreamhousenation@gmail.com. Right in to win tickets. We are giving away some of the best tickets of the summer. We're giving away tickets to the Sonic Temple in Columbus, Ohio, May 25th through May 28th. Tool, Godsmack, Avenged Sevenfold, Queens of the Stone Age, Kiss, Rob Zombie, Foo Fighters, the Deftones. It is going to be an amazing event. Right into dreamhousenation@gmail.com to be eligible to win tickets to this huge event. So definitely don't miss out. Sonic Temple, May 25th through the 28th, Columbus, Ohio, historic Crew Stadium. Right in. Enjoy. Good morning. It's James Lewis. We are excited about our guest today, Jacob Sipes. We are looking forward to talking all about all the great things that he's been up to. He's not just a musician. He's not just a magician. He's not just a director. He does so many versatile things that there won't be enough time to talk about all the great things that he does today. But we're going to try. So, Jacob, thank you for joining us today.
Of course. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
And then at any point, if I get any of the names wrong, feel free to correct me. Like, for example, who is Nadae?
Nadae.
Nadae, thank you. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, Nadae's just simply me. It's my artist handle. If I have to break that down further, it's like asking me who I am, and I'm not sure we have time to discuss that.
I know what you mean. That can be a very in-depth question, but in other words, it is your kind of your pen name or kind of your like. Obviously, when you have Gene Simmons on, he also is the demon, but he's Gene Simmons.
Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect way to express it.
Excellent. So tell us about your upcoming album.
The album itself is a wonderful like monstrosity. It's a basically it's a collection of 7 songs, and each song is an expression of like a particular type of personal experience that I have. But it's multifaceted in that it's also ironically each song is basically an invocation of a particular type of deity. So like for example, the fighter reflects basically my own will to fight, and it also invokes a certain type of how can I express this, a certain type of thought and energy of deity of war. So it's basically wanting to get that fighting energy excited within the listener, and then pointed at a particular obstacle, so they overcome something that actually helps their life. So
Definitely.
the rest of the songs kind of follow that same format, where it's a invocation of a particular type of energy as well as an expression of a personal experience.
I'm not going to lie, if Sony was listening, they were hoping you were going to say God of War, but that's
Hopefully.
yeah. So who inspired you to create The Lover?
Well, The Lover was in no small part inspired by my relationship with my wife. We just celebrated our 9th year anniversary last week, in fact. So, that was a big inspiration. And then on top of that, like, there's a lot of, I've had a few people pointed out that they kind of picked up some of the breadcrumbs, but there's a lot of occult philosophy that's a part of the song structure. So there's this combination of all these different streams of inspiration that's kind of come together to help me produce The Lover.
So tell us about that duet that you and her sing. I mean, that must have been really enjoyable to be able to express those emotions and have someone you love on the other end of it.
Oh, yeah, it was fantastic. It was my wife's first time singing. I wrote the vocal part for the both of us, and I designed a vocal regimen that, she and I worked on in the pre-production stage. And as soon as she hit the booth, it was like watching a bird fly. It was like this wonderful moment. My producer and I just kind of looked over at each other, was like, holy crap. So in short, it was amazing experience, and it's something that we're definitely going to be repeating in the remaining album, such as the next song that I'm in pre-production stage for right now, which is called The Healer. She'll be singing on it as well.
Oh, nice. And then, once again, not trying to break any Disney trademarks, Beauty and the Beast. Why is the Beast hunting for the beauty?
I think in principle, like what I wanted to communicate with that notion is, this idea that, you have like this male energy that, wants to win and unite with the female energy, so to speak. So, the beast hunting the beauty is this ultimate attempt to kind of pursue and woo and to unify, his life with hers. And of course, that's like reflecting my own feelings for my wife.
I was really impressed with how you're able to maintain the very delicate balance between aggression and softness in The Lover.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was a really difficult balancing act, for sure. It was a product of careful testing in the pre-production stage. I had to basically go through the process of determining, what was too much aggression, too little aggression, too much softness. And so there was several iterations of the song that actually came out where, it was just like, no, I have to dial in the aggression, I have to bring out the softness. And so once I got that, those proximities kind of mapped out, I can really easily dial in, this balance of, I mean, it was walking a tightrope between the two, but yeah, the careful testing and the initial pre-production stage is what really set me up for success in creating the balance.
Now, I'm thinking the personal connection had a lot to do with the happy ending of it, where the lovers reunite. I mean, if the song would have been with a different singer, do you think you would have went the same direction, or do you think? Do you think it just that's naturally how you were going to take the song, or was it influenced by the fact that of course, you're in love, 9 years married, it's going to end positive?
Honestly, I think it's a combination of all of it. I do think the song itself, I have a particular philosophy that, the mature art tells you what it wants, and then you kind of figure out a dialectical relationship with the art as the artist. So the song itself, the way that I perceive the song, it wanted to go into a happy direction, and of course, like, I would be lying if I said like it wasn't a reflection of my own marriage. So so it's a combination of all the things that you said.
I really like the important message that it has, and that is to be courageous and to tell people that are close to you that you love them. Because I know sometimes people have trouble expressing their emotions and telling people that are important in their lives they love them, and they kind of feel that time passes and they have difficulties or challenges with that. I think that's a really important message that this song brings out.
Yeah, thanks for the comment. Yeah, it's a terrible thing when you leave things up to assumptions. Like, we kind of assume, and this isn't just me talking from my own like direct anecdotal experience, but as like a professional academic. Like, one of my main research areas is neuroscience, the intersection between neuroscience and philosophy of mind. And one thing that kind of shows up in the literature is this notion that we actually aren't that great at understanding each other's minds when there's indirect communication. Like, there needs to be some level of clarity, like, hey, just simply stating how you feel. There's a lot of things that we just kind of leave up to assumption that, a simple I love you wouldn't clarify. Like, if you had a relationship with your grandfather and your grandfather didn't actually tell you those things, he just kind of assumed that you understood it from his actions. Well, not everybody would make those assumptions. So it's just better that we just be honest and open our hearts and speak directly to one another.
Exactly. I kind of feel that that is a generational thing. Not that people, current generation is completely great about expressing their feelings and their emotions, but you're right. I mean, definitely, previous generations have had more of a challenge because of stigmas behind it. Where fortunately, it does feel like that they are breaking down some of those stigmas in society.
Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree. That's one of the intentions behind the song, actually, is to help generate that type of, private conversation.
So, with that, what type of story is the song trying to tell?
I think the best way to codify the story is the balance of opposites. The unifying of opposites, like this delicate marriage where, you know, um, the individual isn't destroyed by, the two becoming one, but they're kind of brought into this beautiful balance to where they're how do I express this? They're they're attached and bonded and kind of melded together, but they're not destroyed in the union. So in principle, it's the balance of opposites, but there's even some larger philosophical ideas that are going into that went into the construction of the story.
So, it's about unification.
Yes, 100%.
Excellent. And it's about, like peanut butter and jelly. Shoot, if you got peanut butter on one bread and jelly on the other bread, obviously they're separate. But even when you put the two together, you can still tell what's what and who's who, but they're
Yeah,
they're one together though.
that's perfect. I love that. I love that. I'm gonna use that if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. And then of course, the other one that I was really impressed by was the fighter. What inspired you to create the fighter?
Well, that one really comes from, this deep need that I had. Like, I grew up in a really rough household, and yeah, I was born into abject poverty, and so I've had a lot of obstacles kind of overcome to get to where I'm at right now, and even more obstacles to overcome in the future. So I've always needed to encounter issues that I couldn't run from. You can't run from them. You absolutely must fight and dig in your heels and, you know, at least go down swinging. So the fighter really comes from that place of my personal experience where I've had to do that. over and over again in order to win and get the life that I want. So that's really where the inspiration for the fighter, or at least a part of the inspiration, comes from.
I thought it was interesting, and I'm not sure if it would have been you or the director, how they chose. Or no, wait, you are the director. My bad. I keep forgetting that, because with most artists, they don't do, all the aspects. But yeah, how you chose the different styles of fighting as the video progressed, with starting with boxing and going into MMA, that kind of thing. What was your thoughts, or what was the mindset behind that?
Well, the mindset actually began with sword fighting. So it's like I wanted to showcase different types of violence, where constructive violence, to where like you've got, one person that's in a ring, and it doesn't matter. And really the point is, it doesn't matter what ring that you're in, as long as you're fighting, you're expressing that fighting spirit that, it's going to basically help you overcome whatever obstacles in front of you. So when you've got, for instance, in the beginning I showed boxing, and then we moved to some, bare knuckle MMA, and then we moved into some more like just more standard straight up MMA in like the octagon. I wanted to show three different arenas for fighting, and to show you like, hey, the underlying fighting spirit is consistent. And then if you take in the lyrical content with the visuals, the principal punchline of the chorus is rise and conquer, kill your monsters, like fight it every day, every way, go and win the world. I wanted the visuals for the different types of arenas to pair with the lyrics, and be like, hey, don't focus too much on like taking this too literally, but look at the fighting spirit and apply it wherever it ought to be applied.
Definitely. I was going to say, I have buddies in the world of professional wrestling and the world of MMA and boxing, and I definitely plan on having them listen to your song to see if there's any way to have your song be the song for their next pay-per-view, their next event, because I feel that really does encompass the fighting spirit of their sports.
Oh, that would be amazing. Yeah, I totally welcome that. Yes, you have full permission. Please do.
So both the lover and the fighter are emotionally intense, visually stunning. However, each requires an entirely different directorial hand. Tell us about those differences.
Yeah. So the differences were a bit like night and day. I intended the lover and the fighter to be like, rather extreme contrast of each other, both visually and musically, of course. But visually, the fighter required that I showcased like really high intense energy that was pretty consistent, but it had to be done at a curious timing that matched the song and matched the ebb and flow of what a normal fight feels like. Like, I've been doing martial arts for over a decade and a half now. So it's like, I've had my nose broken, I've broken bones, and so it's like really wanted to capture like what it feels like from a first person perspective, and I really wanted that to translate, visually, from that first person perspective of like what it feels like to be in a fight. And that was an entirely different approach than what I had to take with the lover. So it's like you've got these two, these two lovers essentially dancing in the visuals, and it was about this patient aggression paired with this delicate wooing, and trying to create this tone and energy throughout the whole thing that was really restrained, it was respectful to the story, and it required, for me personally, had to pull back a lot of like what I what I would want, which was to show a little bit more aggression, to show a little bit more fighting, more passion from the metal side of things. But that's not what the song required, nor what the film, the directorial approach required for capturing the story of the song visually. So they're black and white as far as directorial approaches go. I don't know if that answered your question, but
Yeah, no, that answered it great. With that, I know you've done a lot of you did the music, you did the directing, you did a lot of the aspects of it. Was that you dancing as well?
No, that wasn't me dancing. Originally, I was I have a contact in Brazil. She's a part of like the national opera there, and I was going to have her and her partner do it. But my editor was able, we were able to find other means. So it's definitely not me. I I'm open to dancing, but but it's kind of difficult to be behind, to
Exactly, to
be
be in front of the camera and behind the camera at the same time. Exactly. Yeah, I was going to say I can relate to the dancing part of it because one of my minors from college is in dance. So watching that, I was quite impressed by just their performance was remarkable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was really interesting to see how everything kind of panned out in post production, with cutting and trying to get the right energy that paces with the song, that's relative to how they're dancing, how they're moving. So yeah, it was a tightrope that we had to walk the entire time, both in writing the song and and even in post production for the film.
So, of course, I'm guessing your background, your PhD in philosophy from Warwick University, that has an impact on your ability to create the art that you do.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, one of the advantages for my background in philosophy. Let's see, I've been doing philosophy for over a decade now. I'm a PhD candidate. I haven't received my PhD yet, but I'm working on it. It's another year and a half worth of work. But during this whole process of studying philosophy, it's one major thing that is translated over into every avenue of my life is asking really good questions to get to the bottom of something. So it's taking a question and then refining the question and then refining it again, until you really get down to some of the bedrock on a subject. And then another way that philosophy has deeply helped my learning of other things, particularly like fine arts, is just simply being able to take a multi-layered complex system of thoughts and then boil it down to like a simple principled view of something. So it's just simplifying in a way that says, oh, okay, well, this kind of can explain a lot of like the details and et cetera, but it's not all this minutia.
Speaking about complex things and being able to break them down, your apprenticeship as a magician, does that help you, or is that more just for enjoyment, or has it shown you a new light on things?
Yeah. So my apprenticeship and particularly my experiences as a magician, it kind of it goes hand in hand with my philosophical work. So it's like I've got a range of expertise in philosophy, and then you've got philosophy of magic, which is, like really old school stuff like Paracelsus and, even Isaac Newton. People
Oh,
attribute,
wow.
even people attribute, oh, physics, this is a father of modern physics, but, his investigations were in principle alchemical and by extension magical by nature. So it's like, magical philosophy is one area of particular interest. So my magic and my philosophy kind of walk hand in hand when it comes to, uh, digging into how the world works and perhaps providing new and creative insights and that sort of thing. And then of course, like the downstream effect is, creativity is a benefactor of both of those things.
Nice. So they all build on each other and help you with your art, it sounds like.
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
Awesome. Well, Jacob, it has been a pleasure having you on the show today. Before we let you go, we want to know where on social media, where on the web, where can we learn more about you, and of course, your music.
Yeah, so you can find me on any social media platform, just at Nadae. Look for Nadae, Nadae_band. It's Nadae or Nadae_band. You can find me on Instagram at Nadae. You can find me on Facebook at Nadae. You can find me on any streaming platform that you prefer, Apple Music, particularly Spotify, YouTube. My music videos, of course, are on YouTube. Just search Nadae. Um, yeah, so anywhere that people have a preference for finding their social media information, you can find me there just simply by typing in Nadae in the search bar. Um, but yeah, so I really appreciate your time, James. I really do. And hope you stay blessed, man. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Enjoyed having you on the show.
Absolutely.
Sonic Temple Art and Music Festival is back at historic Crew Stadium in Columbus, Ohio, with the Foo Fighters, Tool, Avenged Sevenfold, Kiss, plus Rob Zombie, Deftones, Queens of the Stone Age, Godsmack, and more. Memorial Day weekend. Passes are on sale now at SonicTempleFestival.com for only $10 down.
Good morning. Our guest today is the host of Somewhere in the Sky podcast, Ryan Sprague. Ryan, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We're excited about having you on. We want to have you tell us all about Somewhere in the Sky podcast.
Absolutely. So I run a podcast weekly that involves the topic of UFOs, unidentified flying objects, as we're hearing a lot about in the mainstream these days, with all these quote-unquote unidentified objects being shot down in our skies. So a lot of people are wondering, what are these objects? We're still not being told what they are, and that leaves a wide range of possibilities. So on my podcast, I explore the history of UFOs, ever since the modern UFO era, when something supposedly crashed in the New Mexico desert of Roswell, up until today. So you'll hear interviews with military witnesses who have seen these UFOs chase these things in their fighter jets. And you'll hear from people in all walks of life who've looked up in the skies and seen something that they cannot explain. And that's what I like to explore on Somewhere in the Skies.
Oh, wow. So you have a lot of firsthand accounts?
I have hundreds at this point. It's incredible how many people have actually come forward to talk about these things. Some 10 years ago, that wasn't the case. People were afraid to talk about these things. They thought they'd be labeled kooks and cranks, or, they think of the X-Files and stuff like that. But times are changing when you have the U.S. government saying UFOs are real and we don't know what they are. That's really empowered a lot of people to come forward and to see that trajectory throughout the years. As I've been studying UFOs since I was 13 years old, the shift has been absolutely dramatic. So it's been very interesting times, and they're only about to get more interesting, in my opinion.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I agree with you. It sounds like there's going to be a lot more revelations and a lot more interesting stuff to come out. So how did the podcast get started?
So I actually wrote a book back in 2016 called Somewhere in the Skies, and that's where I traveled across the world, actually, and interviewed people face-to-face about having seen UFOs or claimed close encounters even. In escalation in these events where they even claimed that they saw occupants in these crafts that they witnessed. And it was a very crazy, rewarding, beautiful, awkward sort of journey for almost 2 years of taking down these people's stories and just giving them a place to tell it. And that book came out in 2016, and then I came out with a second edition in 2020, and in between those two gaps was the now famous New York Times article that broke saying that the Pentagon had been investigating UFOs in the United States. And now the lid was blown wide off. People started reaching out to me and wanted to tell their stories. So instead of writing another book, I actually started the podcast to continue telling these people's stories. And now we're up to over 300 episodes of individuals from all over the world coming on and telling their UFO stories.
Wow. So it sounds like obviously a great response. The fans are interested. The people are interested in telling their stories. How does it feel to be able to help and empower those people?
It feels good. I saw what I believe to have been a UFO when I was 12 years old, and I don't know what it was. I saw this with my father. Neither of us could explain what we saw, and I was afraid to talk about it. The few people I did tell, they laughed at me, or, they would start singing the X-Files music or stuff like that. So the stigma and ridicule behind this topic has been there for a very long time, James. However, that is changing dramatically right now as UFOs have seemingly gone mainstream, when even again the United States government is saying they are real. We don't know what they are. We're going to try to figure it out. So it does feel almost like a vindication to have them say that and have these people all over the world reach out to me and say, hey, I'm just like you. I saw something and I want to tell people about it. So it's exciting, very encouraging.
This was an odd name for me to see connected with aliens. Louisiana Senator John Kennedy. Tell us, how did he get involved with this?
So Senator Kennedy, actually, and many other representatives, bipartisan nonetheless, have come forward and want answers. They're demanding answers from the Pentagon and from the president of what were these objects that were shot down throughout the United States in the past few weeks. We know that the first one was a Chinese surveillance balloon of some sort, but they haven't said anything about what these other three objects were that they shot out of the sky. Not only that, they're saying that they are no longer going to try to recover the wreckage of these objects. So that leaves the possibility wide open for speculation. And that's where a lot of these Congress members have stepped in and said, look, you need to tell the public what's going on here. They demand to get answers. So again, members like Senator Kennedy or Gillibrand or Rubio, these are a lot of the people right now spearheading these endeavors to not only investigate these UFOs that are being shot out of the sky, but also to see if they pose a potential threat to the United States and other countries. What are they? What are they doing here? And why aren't we telling the public what they are?
So it sounds like that's the reason why they're expanding the office of the AARO?
That's correct. We learned about a secret Pentagon program in the past, which has now been expanded into an all-domain anomaly resolution office. So this is really interesting. They're not only looking at UFOs in our skies, but also in the outer atmosphere, in space. But not only that, they're also looking for submerged and transmedium objects, they call them. So these are objects that have been witnessed by military witnesses who claim to have seen these objects come from the water, go into the air, and then shoot up into the outer atmosphere. Something none of our conventional aircraft can do at this point. So it's very interesting, and it's very interesting to see this new office being established right now, and I look forward to what comes of that.
So where is the best place for our listeners to listen to Somewhere in the Skies?
Thanks for asking. The podcast can be found every week wherever you get podcasts, and everything I do, all of my work, can also be found at my website, somewhereintheskies.com.
Awesome. Well, Ryan, it has been a pleasure having you on the show today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Good morning, Dreamhouse Nation. James Lewis of TDH. Joining us today is the author of Winning Fixes Everything, How Baseball Brightest Minds Created Sports' Biggest Mess, Evan Drellich. Evan, thank you for joining us today.
No, thanks for having me.
So does this book focus more on the 27 Houston Astros or the 2022 Houston Astros?
It's more a story of the 2017 Astros, and really it's beyond that. It's kind of the last decade in Houston, and by extension, the sport overall. It's answering a question: well, how did we get to this massive scandal? What was going on behind the scenes in the front office, in the clubhouse, that we get to this point where 4 people are fired, and it was such massive news to have a World Series winning team that cheated. So the book does include that the Astros won the World Series in 2022, but it's really about everything in the prior years.
That makes sense. Are the Astros currently on the up and up?
Well, look, you're innocent until guilty in baseball, right? I think everybody in 2017, or most people, certainly on the outside in the public, thought the Astros were nobody had any reason to think, oh, they cheated. And so no, I have no evidence that the 2022 Astros were cheating. I think the more interesting question is, well, are they being run differently now? You know, the management culture issues that existed inside of Houston under owner Jim Crane and now 2 GMs ago under Jeff Luhnow, you know, have those been corrected? And time will tell. The book kind of sets up a question for people of, you know, how much do you really know about what's going on behind the scenes? The team holds up a trophy and, you know, we think things are going great, but sometimes they're really not. And, you know, the 2017 Astros are a pretty unique example of that, where winning didn't fix everything.
So did the 2017 Astros get an asterisk next to their championship?
Well, look, not officially in the record book. You know, that there was the commissioner considered taking away the trophy. He did not. Some people thought he should have. But I think in the minds of most people, you know, non-Astros fans, that they know that there was something else going on there. And I think that's always going to be at the front of the conversation when you talk about that 2017 team and the franchise.
So how were those Astros able to rise and fall and rise again so quickly?
Yeah, look, I see some Astros fans push back on the notion there was a fall. You had your manager fired, you had your general manager fired, and you were fined $5 million and lost 2 draft picks in 2 straight years, so 4 total drafts. Yeah, it was a major rebuke, and the commissioner's office really took the baseball operations culture to task there. You know, the irony of the whole thing, in a way, is that the core calculations as to what would make a baseball team good on the field, the Astros are really good at that. You know, that was never a problem. And so when Jeff Luhnow gets fired and James Click comes in, you know, there's a lot that's already in place. Click is a smart guy, does a good job as well, gets the Astros back to the World Series. And so again, it kind of goes to this this point of the disconnect that can exist between the result you're seeing on the field and how a team is actually being run. The Astros are very smart. They've always been very smart. It's what came along with those smarts that I don't think people fully understand at this point, and the book helps reveal.
There have been so many huge scandals in baseball history. Is this one of the biggest?
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean,
what's your opinion?
It's pretty incriminating how they were able to, you know, cheat. I mean, I know they had the talent. It's kind of, in my opinion, I equate it to the steroids. I mean, obviously, Bonds had the talent to be able to hit great, and the great eye, but still, I mean, that little extra seemed to really change things.
Yeah, I mean, look, to me, I think the general consensus, and, you know, who's deciding these things, but from where I stand and all the reactions I see, I think this is up there with, if you're talking about great scandals in baseball history, your most prominent, you know, Black Sox are up there. And I think the Astros are really high on that list. And, you know, PEDs, the difference is there are a lot of similarities between, you know, players trying to get an edge, right? We saw that in PEDs. We saw that in Houston. The difference here is it's a team-wide scheme, right? You know, one player, you know, even several players on a team can use PEDs and cheat that way. But when you have I think the shock of the Astros and why it resonates with people is that you have a World Series winning team that collectively cheated. How many examples of that are there really across professional sports where you know the team that won it all had a team-wide cheating scheme? And so I do think this one's pretty unique.
So it sounds like the cheating was so rapid it went all the way to the highest levels.
Well, look, the owner and the general manager have denied that they, you know, had any knowledge. That there was some evidence gathered that you know, Jeff Luhnow, the GM, had been informed and should have been aware of it. One of the reasons that you know, he gets fired and suspended. The commissioner's office had emails where, you know, this cheating system was mentioned, and Luhnow says, "Well, I didn't actually read those emails." You know, but whether you believe him or not, that's up to you. But certainly, he's maintained he didn't know that. I think the larger point is they created an environment where everybody was always trying to get an edge. It was very bottom line driven. It was about the result. It was about making money and winning ball games. And the rest of the stuff just didn't matter as much. And when you have that kind of environment, bad things can happen. And in this case, kind of the worst thing, you know, when you talk about how a baseball team performs did happen.
So obviously, Jeff is associated with a lot of negatives, but are there any positives that he did for the sport of baseball?
Look, yes. The answer is the Astros, as I was saying earlier about, the Astros were always good at figuring out the core calculations as to what puts together a roster. I mean, Jeff wanted to be and did put himself in the leading group of executives in the sport who were taking steps towards innovation and progress post Moneyball, right? Billy Beane in Oakland, that's kind of the start of everything, and get these outsiders coming into the game. Everybody wants to be the next Billy Beane. The Astros did some things very, very well. Player development, they were very early on the use of these camera systems and tracking systems to be able to tell you how a pitch is spinning. They were very high tech, and it paid off. And so this question of, well, how did the Astros win the 2022 World Series and kind of maintain? Well, they had strong baseball systems in place. And, a lot of that is Luno's doing and the people that Luno smartly brought in, but it's also a question of what came along with it.
So it sounds like it's going to be a great book. Where is it going to be available, and when it'll be available?
It's out now, and it came out on Valentine's Day. It's a love letter to baseball, and it's available everywhere. Online retailers, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, support your local bookstore if you got one near you. It should be everywhere.
Awesome. And then your other work is with The Athletic. Tell us a little bit about that and what you currently cover.
Yeah, I'm a senior writer for The Athletic. I cover baseball. I cover a lot of the off-the-field issues in the sport. So the lockout that we just went through is what I deal with. I'm on Twitter. It's just my name, @Drellich. The rule changes in baseball this year. We've got a little demonstration I got to go to a little later today. So there's always stuff to cover off the field in baseball.
Are there any things that our fans should know about the upcoming 2023 season?
It's going to be kind of a turning point year for the sport because there's all these new rules. Really kind of the most dramatic changes we've had in a single season, if not ever, then in quite some time. Maybe you go back to the advent of the DH because you have a pitch clock now in the majors. Baseball was famously the sport that didn't have a clock. Now it does. The bases that people run around are larger. They're limiting the number of times pitchers can throw over to first base. They're going to more closely enforce balk rules. They're doing all this to try to speed up baseball and to make it more entertaining because one of the things that happened after teams like the Astros and all these analytics-minded teams came in is everybody started hitting home runs, striking out, and walking. No balls in play. Not that interesting. And they also got rid of the shift. So, sometimes you see the fielders, 4 of them on one side. That's gone. They banned that too. So, the big question going into the season from a high level is, well, how do these rule changes work?
Wow. So it sounds like it's going to be an exciting baseball season in 2023.
Yeah, absolutely. If this works, if MLB's rule changes work as intended and baseball moves quicker and games aren't quite as long, there's a chance for some rejuvenation. And at the same time, if the rules don't work out and players are constantly complaining and unhappy, it could look a little different. So it's a very interesting year.
Awesome. It has been a pleasure having you on the show, talking up your new book, Winning Fixes Everything. Before we let you go, Evan, where on social media, where on the web, where can our listeners follow you?
Yeah, I'm just on Twitter @Drellich, so EVANDRELLICH.
Sounds great. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks.